Many amazing women in business know that they can hit these big numbers in business. You know, that multi six figures in a few months, those high cash months. And you have the energy, you have the inspiration, but let's be honest, it's either going to cost you a lot of launching and ad spend, or you have the energy and inspiration. You don't actually have a real plan and a strategy. And I'm not here to sugarcoat this process. I'm not here to sell you a nice little mindset tip to change your mind. I'm here to literally tell you it is all in your sales. And if you actually identify what aspect of your sales there is a gap, we can have a solution and we can actually hit you those numbers. Now, that is what we are going to do inside of this video because I want you to actually make more money, enjoy your life, and have a predictable system to do that. So let's break it down. So much of the time, people focus on more leads. I need more leads. I need more leads. Well, if you converted all your leads at 100%, would you actually be a lot closer to that number? Yes. And if you're converting your leads at 100%, what does that mean you have down? Marketing. What does that mean you have down? The right messaging. What does it mean you have down? The sales process in your marketing and in your messaging, which means inherently you're literally covering both categories in a business. Every business needs more leads. Every business needs to convert those leads. Now, there's many ways we can do that, right? And what most people focus on is the more leads. But what you don't realize is that it's actually in your sales, and we need to understand the gap in your sales process so that we can solve for it. So this one concept really blew my mind as I was scaling up my business. And it was really being able, it's so simple, to identify the bottleneck, the one bottleneck of the business, right? I actually learned this very specifically from Alex Hormozi. And he was saying, and his team was saying, what is the bottleneck of the business? If we solve this bottleneck, what would it open for you? Because if you haven't realized it by now, business is all about always solving a problem, right? That's what's so fun about entrepreneurship. You literally always get to solve a problem. It never just stays. You're always solving problems, but that's the joy and innovation and creativity of it. But identifying your specific problem in your specific business, where you are right now, and the problem within the problem, that is where the sweet spot is. See, if you want more income, you are always having a sales problem, hands down. Because unless you have zero leads, which if you do, go watch some video that I made on marketing and content because it's out there, because I made a lot of videos. But unless you're having zero leads, you're having a sales problem. And actually being able to solve for your sales problem also feeds your marketing ecosystem, which is what I like to call it. So let's identify what this actually is. The bottleneck in your sales. So number one, more income, we're having a bottleneck in sales. Unless you're converting at 100%, you have a bottleneck in sales, okay? I don't care about industry standard. People always told me forever in my business, you're way above industry standard for sales, way above industry standard for retention, for clients, all of it. And I was like, I don't care about the industry. I care about my life and my business, and I make my own numbers. So again, if you're not at 100%, let's look at it. So within your sales, if we increased your sales conversions, what would that do? That would allow more clients to come into your client ecosystem. That means once a client signs, especially when you use my retention strategy, they stay, which is why getting the right clients in your sales process is so important. And then they stay, they enjoy, they refer out, it feeds your marketing. We're all happy. But within sales, there's multiple aspects of sales, and this is what we actually want you to audit in your business. There's the aspect of sales in your marketing. There's the aspect of sales actually inviting into the sales process. There's the aspect of sales on the actual sales conversation or DM. And then there's the aspect of sales of the paying part. And we're going to look at all four right now. And we want to identify where your gap is, because if we can identify your gap, we can solve for it. And I want to show you what this actually looks like in practice. So in a typical sales situation, someone finds you, they consume some level of content, whether free content, paid content, a workshop, social media content, YouTube, some level of content, they experience your work. They consume that content. Then that content, if done correctly, is meant to drive them to the next step, which is how to actually invite them into that sales conversation, AKA call it a pitch, call it a DM, call it a Calendly link, whatever. That is the invitation. Then they need to say yes to the invitation. That is another sales metric. And then there's a sales conversation, sales call, DM, pitching on a workshop. That is a sales conversation. And then there's them buying. So the first step that I want you to look at, one, is your content that you're using as your main way for people to come in driving people to essentially book a call with you or for them to hear about your offer directly? Is it driving it? And if not, to me, that is not a marketing problem. That is your sales content. Your marketing should be a sales. Your marketing should be selling indirectly all the time. And that is actually exactly what I help my clients design, is literally their marketing for a sales content mechanism to move people along. So one, are people from your content being driven to get invited into a way of a sales conversation, right? So again, this could look like a social media post that has someone DM them to DM them and start a DM conversation to then get invited into a call to then get invited into the offer. This can also look like content driving people to a workshop, getting them experience in the workshop, pitching them into a call and into your offer. This could also look like, hosting a workshop live, normally further down the step, but let's play with it. Hosting a workshop live, selling the actual offer there and getting people to buy. The first step is that content getting people on the first step of the sales mechanism? So you can look at how much am I converting, let's say, for instance, from my social media, getting people to even hear about my offer, to even hear about my book a call link, to even hear about whatever it may be. That is the first step of the sales process. And just notice, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, oh, hell yeah, it's happening all the time. 1 being, no, there's a gap there, right? Second step is inviting people into the sales conversation. So you might be selling off a sales call. You might be selling off of a webinar or workshop. You might be selling directly in your DMs. You might be selling off a sales page. There is a gap, right, between when someone finds you and they're consuming your content to when they actually even hear that I could get on a call with you, even hear that I could get a workshop, even hear the sales page or get the sales page from you. So what I want to know is how often, once you put it out there, do people even say yes to the call or to whatever it is, right? How often is that happening? Is that happening a lot, that when someone comes in your DM, then very quickly they get a call link and everybody says yes? Again, if not, that is our gap. We want to solve for that gap. We want to go, okay, how do I convert higher in that transition? Because you may be getting tons of volume, but if they're not converting into wanting to sign up for your workshop, if they're not converting into wanting getting on a call with you, it's not going to work, right? That's our gap. Then, third gap we want to look at is once they get the link, how often are they either buying, booking it? That's pretty much it. Signing up. Buying, booking, signing up. Once they get the link, how often are they buying, booking, and signing up? That is telling us how effective that link is. That's all it's telling us, right? Every step is giving us information. So it's saying, oh, the way I wrote that message and the way the link is set up, it was very effective. For instance, if I send out my Calendly link for you to book a call with me to be able to help support you with your business, if I send that out and I send you a message and I send you that link and I send it to 10 people and only 2 actually book a call with me, very ineffective message, right? If I have a webinar and people DM me to get the link to the webinar, and out of all the DMs, only 50% sign up, sales page could use some work, right? It's feedback. It's information. Everything about your business is literally feeding you information. That's why it's not blind and people try to solve way bigger problems instead of the micro problem. The other point that you want to look at in your sales process is the actual converting. So once you give the invitation, how many people actually say yes, right? Once you pitch your services on a sales call, how many people are buying? Once you pitch your services off of a webinar, how many people are saying yes? Once you give that sales page, how many people are buying off it? Again, that is telling us how strong your close, your pitch actually is. And that's very important. The thing I want you to recognize is all 4 parts of these are part of what makes a very strong sales process. And see, what most people are doing is you go, oh, my sales conversions. Well, there's a lot of aspects to your conversions. And that's why you could have one micro problem, let's say even in how people are seeing your content. Or maybe your micro problem is just the message you send for someone to book a call with you. We just need to tweak the wording. That's the problem, right? And when I say problem, I just mean as it's the thing we get to fix in the business because that's what we're here for. And I really want you to identify in this process, where are you on the map? Where if you solve for one aspect of your actual sales mechanism, what would it be? Is it the initial content to get the right people in? Is it actually inviting people into the container, into the call, or into the workshop with you? Is it people actually booking it, right? Saying, sign me up, book the call with me. Or is it people actually buying, which is, I'm buying your offer, I'm buying off the workshop, I'm buying in your DMs. Where is it? And again, once we solve one aspect, then we can solve the next aspect and the next aspect and the next one. And again, this is where business, you should feel like you know what to do at every point in your business. And I want to show you what this looks like exactly for one of my clients. So one of my clients actually just went viral, over 1.2 million views on a reel. This client is amazing. She has sold out group program after group program after group program. Has actually been a client of mine for 8 years. She's incredible. And she sells a health and I would say inner work program. She's an evolution of what she's growing. She keeps transforming it so it feels more like her. And her program, so her reel went viral. And one of the things we looked at is great. Her reel went viral and she's trying to get people to a workshop to then get people to a call to get people in her program. That is the funnel. And so her reel went viral. And what we identified, she said, it's going viral. I was so proud of her. And she said, but it's not converting. It was converting. She got a lot of workshop signups, but not at the level of conversion that you would want from someone from going viral. By the way, I never try to teach my clients to go viral at all. She just happened to go viral. And again, viral means nothing. We focus on conversions. My big thing with every business is conversions. I want every conversion up. Have a small following, higher conversions. Big following, higher conversions. Everything is high conversions. So this client, 1.2 million on this reel, got about, I believe the last time we checked in, about 100 workshops, people commenting for the workshop, right? And then she had a certain amount actually book the workshop. Her first response to me, which again, I was so proud of, wow, I went viral, but the conversions are not what I would want them to be. So what do? We put on our business hats and I said, great, let's solve that problem. So the reel went viral. So the content was very attractive. But why did not people buy the workshop is because we probably need, and her and I are on the same page. She doesn't need all those views. We want higher conversions. So we are looking at, okay, how do we actually change the messaging so that people don't just relate to the content, but they actually want to do something? And see, this is where a lot of people miss it in marketing. Your content is supposed to do something. Every piece of content has a direction. You're trying to get someone to like you, trust you, buy from you, see you as an authority, go to your YouTube, whatever it is, it has a purpose. And so what we want to look at is her messaging, shifting it so it's not just relatable, but it's getting people who are related to and then actually want to convert. And then what we did, just so you know, to piecemeal this up is going back and actually getting people who are liked it to actually come and sign up for the workshop in a different strategic way. Now, what is this going to do? Then it's going to have her have more qualified leads come into our world, more qualified leads on the workshop, and then be able to sell very easily, which she always does every single launch, and convert into her world. I really want to emphasize this for you. And I'm using this as a very real example to show you how you want to be thinking about your business. You want to look at everything through the lens of conversions. And if things aren't converting at the rate we want at every step, we want to problem solve for the solution. Because this is something I've learned very, very, very long ago. Numbers, virality, whatever you see online means nothing. At the end of the day, your business is sales. Your business is sales. And if you increased your sales and had the right people, by the way, you will have increased sales if you have the right people on calls or workshops with you. You're going to love the work you do. You have the right clients in your container and they'll stay with you. It is literally a like step by step, exactly what you need, how to make a lot of money in the business is exactly this. And so this is why it's really important to make sure you problem solve for where the gap is in your sales process. And this is why one of my favorite things to do is to really turn on that strategic brain and to really look at where is the gap. And then when we solve for the gap, there's so much that becomes possible. Then we move to the next step in the process. And that is why I'm creating this so that you can actually have solutions and go, okay, this is my gap. So then what is actually needed? What is that telling me about my sales process? And then how do we be able to increase these solutions? And again, I really want to emphasize this gets to be fun and easy. I always love personally finding my clients micro problems to create micro solutions, because then we can actually do something about it. We actually have dominion over the business versus feeling like, oh, my content's off. Her content is not off. Her content is killing it. Her conversions of her content was off just in a few wordings. And again, when we shift that, everything changes. So I want you to look at your business and I want you to look at one, just know sales is master sales in every aspect. And then to identify where is the gap in your sales process and what is one thing you could do right now that would help improve that gap. Is it in your messaging? Is it actually in the way that you're wording your message? Is it actually you don't have a strategy and you really need support? And if so, I'm here. But what is it for you? And I really want you to identify it so that you can actually have something that you can go do. Go enjoy. Let me know how this landed. Let me know what stuck with you. I always love knowing so I can actually create more of these.